Friends, it's time to wake up. Children in the womb are being mass murdered on a regular basis in the Chicagoland area. And most young people are not being taught about the Holocaust that they're living in. Many young people are not being educated about the genocide that they're living in. Does your school teach you about the genocide that you're living in right now? The mass murder of little children in the womb that is going on in your own country. Do they teach you about that? Do they teach you about the foundation for human rights, the law of God? God is the standard for morality, my friends. His law is the standard, not the arbitrary opinions of humans. Not just what society comes up with for a standard. No, God's law is the standard, not the opinions of humans. The Supreme Court once declared that black slaves were not persons with the rights of citizens. Was that okay? No. That was dehumanizing. It dehumanized people created in the image of God. What do we have today? We have a Supreme Court that says that it's okay to murder babies. We have a Supreme Court that declared that pre-born children, they're not citizens. They're not humans with the rights of citizens. That's what the Supreme Court made clear to the country. But we shouldn't bow down to the Supreme Court. We should establish equal rights for all humans. We shouldn't be bigots towards people in the womb. We should love every human being in every stage of life. But the fundamental problem is rebellion against God. The fundamental problem that results in the mass murder of babies in the womb is sin, rebellion against God, selfishness, hatred of neighbor. But Jesus Christ said, love your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You're not loving your neighbor as yourself if you're ignoring your neighbors when they're being mutilated to death inside local killing facilities. You're not loving your neighbor as yourself if you're going about your business like it's no big deal when people are getting slaughtered inside killing centers in the Chicagoland area. You should be a voice for these little children because they don't have a voice. You should raise up a great outcry against this. People should be outraged about this, but they're not. They get outraged about the mass murder of born people, but not the mass murder of preborn people, and that's a problem. That's discrimination based on age. That's rebellion against the God who wants us to not discriminate. He commands us to love, and He wants you to love every human being in every stage of development, no matter what they look like, no matter what stage of development they're living in. You see, many people are running towards hell because they want to be selfish. They want to live for themselves. They want to dehumanize other people. So I have to warn people about hell today. I have to warn them that God is just. He's a just God, and He's going to punish people for their sin because He doesn't tolerate sin forever. Because He's a good judge, He doesn't let evildoers go free, but He punishes them. He throws them into a place of never-ending torment. And you need to be warned about that today because many of you are probably running towards hell. Many of you are probably in danger of the wrath of God. But Jesus Christ said, unless one is born again, one cannot see the kingdom of God. What does that mean? That means you need to be born into new life. That's spiritual life. That's a relationship with God through the mediator, Jesus Christ. That means you need to repent of your sin and put your faith not in your good works and what you can do, but you need to put your faith in what Jesus Christ has done by dying as a blood sacrifice to appease the wrath of God. Jesus Christ is God incarnate. He came into the world to die to receive the punishment that sinners deserve for their sin, so that sinners who come to Him in faith, they will no longer be condemned to the hellfire that they deserve. That's good news for you today, friends. Trust in Him. He rose from death. He now lives to be a righteous representative for you if you put your faith in Him. But if you reject Him, you're going to end up in hell, and I need to warn you about that today. I need to wake you up today because many people are in danger of hell. Many people support baby murder. Many people say that it's a woman's right to choose to slaughter her own child. They say it's a woman's right to choose, but they don't finish the sentence. A woman's right to choose what? A woman's right to choose to tear her baby's arms and legs off? That's insane. A woman's right to choose to mutilate her baby to death with a vacuum hose? Oh no, that's insane. A woman's right to choose to starve her baby to death through a chemical abortion? Nope. It's always the wrong choice. You see, it's a choice, but it's always the wrong choice, so we shouldn't call it a choice. It's kind of like rape. Raping somebody is also a choice, but it's always the wrong choice to rape someone, so we don't call it a choice. It should be unthinkable. Just like abortion should be unthinkable. So don't call it a choice. It's always the wrong choice. It's always the wrong choice to mutilate somebody to death when they're living and growing and developing in the first months of life.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing okay?
Good, what's your name?
My name is Matt.
Hi Matt, I'm Jessica.
Hello, would you like one?
Please have one.
Yep.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Doing well?
Yeah.
No, stay there.
Hello.
Just as like obviously no, you're free speech. I totally get it.
Yep.
Just a question. Do you like go to all the high schools, or how did you choose Hinsdale Central?
There's good access to students here. I go to different high schools.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good access to kids. Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know. All right, let's go.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Friends, it's time to wake up. You're living in a nation that mass murders thousands of children every day as the average when they're living in the first months of life. Do they teach you about that at this institution? Did they teach you about the genocide that's going on in your own country? I mean, they probably teach you about the Nazi genocide, right? The Nazi Germany genocide on the Jews. It's kind of crazy if they teach you about that, but they don't teach you about the one you're living in right now. That's pretty absurd. Your school is probably teaching you absurdities. I'm just going to be blatantly honest. I mean, if they're teaching you evolutionary theory, they're leading you completely astray. In the evolutionary worldview, knowledge is not even possible. In the evolutionary worldview, consciousness is the result of matter in motion that evolved over billions of years. Let me tell you something, my friends. There's no way to know that the matter in motion producing your consciousness is actually giving you a reliable perception of reality. How do you know that your consciousness is giving you the correct perception of reality if your consciousness is produced by random matter in motion? Chemical reactions that just evolved in a certain way over billions of years. Please explain to me how you can trust what your consciousness is giving you. How can that be correct information if that is the result of an evolutionary process? You can't trust an evolutionary process to give you a consciousness that is reliable. So in that evolutionary worldview, knowledge is not even possible, so you should just give that up. The Christian worldview, in the Christian worldview, we have a foundation for knowledge because we put our faith not in the random movement of matter, but in the one who created consciousness, God, who creates our minds so that we can think correct thoughts and interpret reality correctly and perceive things with correct perceptions in the world that He created us to operate in. That's a foundation for knowledge. That's something you should put your faith in. We all operate on faith. Everybody puts their faith in something. A lot of people put their faith in a foolish evolutionary worldview, and it doesn't make sense. A lot of people put their faith in themselves, but that doesn't make sense because you don't have all knowledge. You're not an omniscient being. You need to rely on revelation from the one who knows everything, and then you can have a foundation for intelligibility and knowledge. But when you're putting your faith in your limited consciousness, you can't know the true nature of reality because you don't have all knowledge, and you could always be wrong about what you think is right. You see, Jesus Christ came into the world to destroy the works of the devil. I'm displaying for you today a work of the devil, abortion, the destruction of little babies that is taking place in your society that is approved of by your society. A society that is bigoted towards people who are living and growing and developing where every human being needs to live and grow and develop.
Yep. I just want to thank you for trying to spread the word. A lot of people don't understand. It's the thing is, like, when I talk about it, I feel like spreading the word is right, but trying to make it into a law, right? That's not the best thing, you know.
Well, I think it is, because we have laws that protect born people, right? So we should do the same for pre-born people, so we don't discriminate, you know.
Yeah, I know, but it's just so many people are against it at this point. It's not like possible to make it into a law. I feel like spreading the word more.
Well,
right now,
we do need to change the culture. We do.
Not changing culture would be a good idea, but changing legislation, I think that would just be impeding too much on people's right.
Well, no, it's not a right to murder a baby, so it wouldn't be impeding on a right.
It's not a right. It's just
that
at
changed.
This point, making it a law, too many people would be against it. It would cause too much controversy at this point. I support you. But trying to make it into a law, I don't feel that's the right way of doing it. I feel just actual spreading knowledge instead of forcing people into it would convince much more people to go on our side.
Well, I think the law actually educates people into correct morality.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless.
And so, like, the law actually changes the culture. Like, when you put a law in effect and people grow up in a society in which it's against the law to murder preborn children, they automatically think, oh, this is wrong. Because that's a lot of people just base their morality off what the government tells them. I mean, the government should reflect God's law. The government should implement God's law and like communicate to people God's standard for justice. But a lot of times the government doesn't. And they're not doing that right now because they don't punish people who murder preborn children.
Our country's not built on religious foundings. It's built on freedom for all.
Well, I mean, it is a religious foundation. Right now it's the religion of secular humanism that they're practicing right now. It's basically the worship of mankind, who were the consensus of the most amount of people in society becomes the authority for determining morality.
Yeah, I get it. I get it completely.
So, but humans and their opinions are not the standard for morality, because those change, you know, that's always that's in flux, you know. So God's standard is eternal, and he's the one opinion, the one lawgiver to whom we're all accountable. Definitely. So he's the standard.
People may want them right here, but after they die, who knows what's going to happen to them?
Well, I mean, they're going to end up in hell if they rebel against God and his law. Would you like one?
Thank you.
All right, it was nice talking with you. I'll take one.
Yep, sweet. Hello.
No thanks.
Hello.
No.
Yep.